Hey, what's up guys? LegalBro here. Today we're breaking down a video with Al Sharpton and Trump's lawyer talking about the indictment and what is going to happen. Does this violate campaign finance laws, or was Trump trying to save embarrassment for his family? Let's get into it.
It is very simple.
It is.
You have a lawyer who paid a woman 10 years after the alleged sex act, right before an election, and he was reimbursed by your client. How is that not a prima facie case that the grand jury has?
The Reverend not pulling any punches, folks. I like it. Direct question to Trump's lawyer. How is this not a campaign finance violation? Trump directed Michael Avenatti to make this payment to Stormy Daniels in direct connection with him running his campaign. The alleged act that led to this payment was a decade beforehand. This is too close to home. Let's see the response.
Clearly not, because I'll tell you what, there's two massive distinctions here in campaign finance law, which I've become sort of expert in. I've listed Bradley Smith, the former head of the FEC. One, unlike John Edwards, this was paid with personal funds. So there's a massive distinction there.
Matter.
Oh, it does.
It doesn't matter.
Yes,
what was
there's
the
a statutory
intent of the payment? What was the intent of the payment?
Prevent embarrassment to himself and his family. Even Michael Cohen said that under oath when he pled guilty.
Okay, super interesting. So Reverend says, what's the intent of the payment? And Trump's attorney is saying, look, this is personal funds going to save embarrassment for his family, right? Trump is talking about how this is going to embarrass him. This is going to give him a black eye, right? It'd be super interesting. Like, did Trump's kids and Melania already know about this? Hard to believe that they wouldn't, but ultimately, you know, did it squeak out? We don't know. Obviously, Michael Avenatti used it to blow up his career in more ways than one, good and bad. But that's what Trump's attorney is saying. Look, we can distinguish this from campaign finance. This is a personal payment.
And Michael Cohen paid the star, the porno star,
whatever,
so that Donald Trump wouldn't be embarrassed to his family. And it just coincidentally happened a couple of weeks before the election. For 10 years, they weren't worried about it.
She came forward when he was running for presidency. She didn't come forward for 10 years before. Some might call it extortion, but putting that aside, Reverend, listen.
Trump's attorney essentially saying that Stormy Daniels is trying to extort Trump, and that's why she came out of the woodworks. Sort of intriguing though, right? Like, Trump's attorney, let's give him a little bit of credit here. A little bit. Why would Stormy Daniels wait over 10 years? And I'm not victim shaming here. Stormy Daniels has essentially said that whatever sexual encounter they had was consensual, although disgusting. So why is it that Stormy would come out of the woodworks and go after Trump? I'm guessing she wasn't trying to get the free jet, but Michael Avenatti probably turning tricks like he's good at, right? Michael Avenatti's turning his tricks. That's why she came forward. And my guess is, look at Michael Avenatti. Michael Avenatti, what did he get jammed up for? Stealing from clients and extorting Nike. It's the same playbook here. He's coming forward and he's saying, look, better pay the piper or look what's gonna come out. I don't think there's any difference here. I think Stormy Daniels knew exactly what she was doing, but there's no difference, right? You have that happening in politics all the time. People don't come forward, people don't come out of the woodwork until somebody has something to lose. And then of course somebody loves to kill somebody's dream or chances or whatever. I don't really disagree here. I think that this could have been opportunistic. Now what's super interesting is the Reverend is making some great arguments, because even if Stormy Daniels is paid 10 years later, well, how do you not connect that to campaign finance? He's obviously running for president. Both good points. I'd love to know why Stormy waited though. Stormy, if you see this, let me know. Reach out, DM.
Listen to me. It has to be, for it to be a campaign finance law violation, it has to be exclusively done for the campaign.
If we were in court, I would ask them to read back your statement. She came forward 2 weeks before the election, which meant you were reacting to the election.
No, it meant you were reacting to an extortion attempt to hide something that did or didn't happen. The president said it didn't happen. She said it did now before she said it didn't happen.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to disagree just a little bit, right? If we're going to be objective and we're going to say, okay, okay, if it was paid 1 month before the election, obviously that looks like a pretty slam dunk case, right? Why would Trump be doing that, right? Why would he be paying that? But think about it. Is he just responding because Stormy Daniels is trying to ruin him and that's why he's responding? And Stormy Daniels didn't make that demand 10 years ago. She made it a month before the election. So how do we know that this is tied to the campaign or tied to Trump's personal life? I mean, isn't that where this investigation and analysis comes in? And obviously, everybody's got a gag order. This entire case has the lid on it. So we don't technically know, but I think if we're trying to examine this objectively, I think you have to look at all sides, whether you support Trump or not. I mean,
Joe Tacopina is twisting himself into knots here, trying to justify how a payment that was clearly intended to shield Trump from bad press coverage while running in 2016 was just a total coincidence and not linked to the campaign in any way, shape, or form. Only, here's the first problem with this logic. The courts have already settled this. Michael Cohen was sentenced to prison in 2018 under the premise that the purpose of Cohen's hush money payments to Stormy Daniels was to influence the 2016 election. Therefore, the payments must be treated as campaign contributions, which are subject to strict regulations under federal election law. It was ruled that Michael Cohen's $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels exceeded the $2,700 contribution limit, and if Trump knew about this at the time, which we all know he did despite his lies, then he too is guilty of this crime. So for Joe Tacopina to make this argument when it was already litigated 5 years ago is as pathetic as it is.
So BTC makes a couple points here, all accurate. You can't donate more than $3,000, right? It was like $2,700. I don't know the exact amount, but it's less than $3,000. You have Michael Cohen effectively pleading guilty, saying that he did all of this in support of Trump's campaign, right? He paid $130K to Stormy to keep her quiet, and Trump knew about it, and therefore he was a party to it, right? He's a party to this agreement. Where I disagree a little bit with BTC is I think that's not the entire story. I think Michael Cohen did admit that he was part of it, but I also think that Michael Cohen said that he paid the money without any intention of getting it back, meaning he wasn't gonna pay through Michael Cohen and then get money from Donald Trump for the 130. The way that Michael said it was, I was trying to squash this and protect my friend and boss, right? I don't know if I believe any of it, but again, I think that Michael Cohen is necessarily the victim here. I think Michael Cohen was maybe a little bit of a shady cat that got caught, and now he's somehow born again. I don't know.
Of course, Joe Tacopina knows this, and we know he knows this because he admitted his own current client's guilt on live television back in 2018.
No one who's here is going, oh my God, I can't believe this. I've said all along, if he had just come out and said, yeah, I did, so what? And just chalk that up to another one of the things on his list of minor scandals, he gets through. Right. She's gone into great detail about her one-night stand with him. What else can she say? There's nothing else to tell. This could be looked at as an in-kind contribution at the time of the election. This is a real problem.
I guess one drawback to Trump choosing his lawyers from TV is that those lawyers probably criticized him on TV. But in case you thought that...
Ooh, BTC, excellent point. This is not good because what they're doing is they're looking at what Trump's lawyers' previous statements are, and now they can Monday morning quarterback and figure out, okay, what did Trump actually know from that time period based on what his lawyer is saying. Yikes.
This was the end of Trump's lawyer being humiliated by Al Sharpton in this segment. It actually got worse for him.
Not here to defend all things Donald Trump. I'm here to defend this case. Okay, Donald Trump is Donald Trump. He's as aggressive as he is.
Does he have an obligation to denounce the rhetoric and what has happened to to Alvin Bragg? We had a prayer rally for Alvin Bragg this morning. This man and his family could be under serious threat.
What someone sent to Alvin Bragg has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
How do you know that?
I think that that's kind of bit unfair for Al Sharpton to say, considering that Alvin in the prosecutor's office files cases against everybody. They file cases against terrorists. They file cases against the worst people in the country. Gang members, white supremacists, all of these crazy bad people. You're telling me that the worst person that they've ever dealt with is Donald Trump? I think that he's probably had some other scares. I could be wrong. Now, that doesn't mean that some of Trump's supporters are a little bit wild, right? I mean, somebody standing on Pelosi's desk, personally, as an American, you deserve jail time. I don't care what your feelings are about Nancy Pelosi. You cannot have somebody in our Capitol doing stuff like that. You cannot have people in the Capitol behaving like that. It just doesn't happen.
Because Donald Trump would have nothing to do with that.
Donald Trump wrote death and destruction if I'm indicted.
However,
he announced that he was going to be indicted Tuesday.
That came from leaks. That came from leaks.
He posed with a bat.
No, he didn't. No. So let me explain that.
Wait, just a minute. There was a picture with a bat that someone had put together he reposted.
This is where I got to agree with the Reverend a little bit. Trump isn't doing himself any favors, right? Not only is he saying, hey, I didn't do this, but he's saying, look, there's going to be hell to pay, right? We are not going to go into this silent good night. The rhetoric is a little bit scary.
Did he not?
So however,
the witness answer the question.
The witness about to answer the question.
Did he repost it?
However ill-advised that post was, reposting that. He reposted
Does
an
that
article.
mean that you stipulate he did repost it?
Well, apparently he reposted, but I also know he took it down when he realized what was in that photo. He was reposting an article, but he did take it down.
So I stabbed you in the back, but I took the knife out.
Before the knife did any damage.
Before the damage. So if you are out.
These guys are pretty good. You could have this as like a yin and yang comedy show. Like the Reverend obviously has some great points. Trump's lawyer is kind of, he's combative enough, but he's kind of a good sport for what it's worth, entertaining.
Bragg's family, and you see a repost by the former president of the United States with a bat next to your father's head.
But you understand that was not his photo. It was in an article.
He reposted it.
But he was reposting the headline of the article without seeing the picture. When he saw the picture, when he was notified, he took it down.
So you're telling the American public that Donald Trump didn't see the picture?
I'm telling the American public I'm here to discuss the case and the facts. Social media is not what I do. I'm not a PR person for Donald Trump. I'm here to litigate the case. There is no crime in this case. And so I can understand why he's becoming upset. He is becoming politically persecuted.
Don't worry. Trump may have stabbed you, but as Takapina says, he pulled out the knife before it did any damage, because that's how stabbings work. Now, this line of questioning by Al Sharpton is in reference to the recent news that a Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, received an envelope with a suspicious white powder along with the death threat. And this happened just hours after Trump posted on Truth Social suggesting...
All right, I take back everything I just said. If you're getting what looks to be smanthrax in the mail, probably need a bit of protection.
Death and destruction if he's indicted. But hey, let's not go crazy and claim that Trump wanted this violence. That would be irresponsible. It's telling, too, that Takapina barely even tries to defend his own client's behavior here, going so far as to say that it's not his job to do so. Only, here's the problem with that. You can't detach Trump's own behavior from the crimes that he commits. The unhinged posts on Truth Social, the incitement to his own supporters, all of this is just a continuation of the crime spree itself. This is the entire point of charges like obstruction of justice. If you try to interfere in the investigation by attacking the investigators, you're only continuing to perpetuate the criminal activity. And if there was any question that his rhetoric is continuing to escalate, here's Trump and his supporters at his rally in Waco, Texas over the weekend with their hands over their hearts as they play their pro-January 6th insurrection anthem called Justice for All, while the screens around them play footage of insurrectionists storming the Capitol and beating police officers.
You're telling me this song is more popular than Morgan Wallen's new album? I'm not buying it.
So first January 6th was a false flag operation by Antifa, then it was just a peaceful tourist visit, and now they've just given up all pretense and are embracing the violence altogether and replacing their anthem with it. Yeah, no, that sounds about right. But I should note one thing. Takapina inadvertently revealed the very foundation of Trump's entire defense here when he says this.
There is no crime in this case, and so I can understand why he's becoming upset. He is becoming politically persecuted.
Politically persecuted. Donald Trump views himself as the victim here. The guy who committed the campaign finance violations thinks that he's the one who deserves pity. the guy who tried to overthrow the last election, the guy who asked the Georgia Secretary of State to find non-existent votes, the guy who incited his supporters to violence on January 6th, the guy who's inciting his supporters to violence again in New York. Apparently, the more crimes that Trump commits, the more you should feel sorry for him. In a way, this is the perfect microcosm for the GOP these days. They impose their extremist behavior onto everyone else and then turn around and cry that they're the victims. Over and over, from abortion bans to insurrections. Just a perpetual state of complaining from people who are either incapable or unwilling to take responsibility for their own actions. And look, I've said this before, but it bears repeating. These are the consequences when you don't have swift justice. When there's no accountability, criminals only get emboldened.
Now that's something we can agree on, me and BTC, right? The criminals that are running amok in America, they're in California, they're stealing stuff from stores. I've got a client here dealing with this issue with a title dispute, right? Criminals are attacking their ability to sell their properties. This is running amok. I agree with BTC. You need swift justice. Where I find it hard to agree with BTC is the unprecedented nature that Mike Pence talked about, which is we have never had a former president indicted. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to agree with BTC. The insurrection is un-American. Let me repeat, the insurrection is un-American. We cannot have people storming the Capitol. Period. The end. You're never going to convince me that that is a great idea. I think everybody that stormed the Capitol is going to get what they deserve, and they will get their day in court. The last thing I'm going to say about this, I don't think this is the end for our society. Unfortunately, I think it will only get a bit more divisive from here, and this probably isn't the end for Donald Trump either. I'm sure if they have the ability to throw more stuff on the pile, then they're going to do it. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be detrimental to the rest of us Americans because we have much greater things to worry about, like, I don't know, Brazil, Russia, China, India, Mexico joining forces, going to make the yuan the international currency. Yeah, I think that's a pretty big issue, folks. Maybe we could turn our focus to something like that. If you like this video and you want to see more, give us a sub and a comment below. Let me know what you want to hear. What do you think of the Trump indictment? Do you think that he deserves it? Do you think that we should indict other politicians? Do you think that we need to keep all this separate? Do you think that this is political targeting? Do you think that this is deserved? I want to hear what you think. I think that there are arguments on both sides. I can see both sides of this argument. That's why I just want to talk about it, have an open conversation. Let us know what else you want to see. LegalBro, love you all.